has been involved with ESPN's coverage for a very long time for the draft, and he will be front and center 1 week from tonight. As it was, that video that came out today was quite something, with him sitting on the set and Tom Brady getting drafted and Tirico being the one to do it. I cannot believe it's been 20 years. As he's getting ready for yet another draft on the set for ESPN. He is Mel Kiper Jr. How are you, Mel?
Rich, it's great to talk to you, pal. It has been amazingly 20 years since Brady was out. I remember when the pick was made.
I mean, and seeing the video today, what how did that hit in the Wayback Machine hit you right there, Mel?
Telling you, Rich, years go by pretty quick, don't they? I mean, I just remember thinking after it was all over and Brady was developing into one of the best of all time that they didn't even take him with their first pick in the 6th round. They took Antoine Harris, a defensive back out of Virginia. And then I remember Spurgeon Wynn went out of Southwest Texas State to the Cleveland Browns. And then here's Brady, a compensatory pick at the end of the 6th round, the 199th pick overall. You're going to New England. And if you go back, Rich, New England got nothing out of that draft really except for Brady.
Exactly. I mean, but that's enough.
Yeah, right. If you're going to have a draft with one guy hitting, you might as well get the best quarterback along.
Exactly. What was your first draft? Now, by the way, 37 years ago. This is your 37th draft that you're involved in. What was the first one like for you, Mel? Which one was that?
It's crazy. Well, I covered the draft in 78, 79, putting out the reports and doing all that. First one with ESPN was the 83 season, 84 draft. And all I remember, Rich, was going up to Bristol. It was just one building, one little building, and Chris Berman and Bob Lee greeted me at the door, took me down to the studio, and it was done then. With basically the first round, we got into the second round and we signed off. And I just remember doing round one, and Boomer's just saying, "Hey, I'd never done much TV. I was 23 years old." And he said, "Just talk to me. We're sitting at a desk. Just talk to me." Bob was the host there, and Chris and I were sitting at a desk, and we just did our thing. They came. We weren't on the main set. The main set was in New York with George Grant and Howard Balzer and Paul Zimmerman. So they would come to us and would do our thing, and then would send it back to New York. But it was fun. But all I remember is thinking back to then and now. Second round, we were signing off to go to like a boat race or a tractor pull.
I bet. I just remember I was in college, Mel, watching it at the University of Michigan, watching the draft with you. And I just remember because, all my fraternity brothers who are from the Midwest knew I was one of the few New Yorkers in the mix. And then when the Jets drafted Jeff Lageman and you went all in against it, they were quoting you directly to my face, Mel, back in the day.
Those were the days. I wanted them to trade down and still get Lageman. Yeah, it's amazing how back in those days, we weren't doing it. I remember Freddie Godelli sitting there, Rich, back in whatever year it was. And I remember we come down on the second day of the draft and we just relax and dress casually, sit there with our information, write down the picks. And Freddie was sitting there. I said, "Freddie, why are you hanging out on day 2 so long?" He said, "I'm just scoping this out because next year we're televising every pick." And now you've done that. You've been doing that. But back in those days, never thought based on what was talked about in terms of the draft, and the NFL didn't even want it to be televised. And all of a sudden, you'd go from a few rounds to all the rounds and every pick. And that was when Freddie told me that. I was pretty amazed, but I said, "Boy, this draft is coming off a long way, hasn't it?"
It sure has. And now here we are in 2020, and it is something that I think the entire United States of America. I'll be honest, and I know this is saying a lot. I think we need it, Mel. I think we need it. I think we need it as people to just sit down. I'm getting emotional just even saying this right now. I never thought I'd get emotional over an NFL draft, but I think we do, Mel. I think the whole country needs it right now.
I'm with you, Rich.
Man.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people, on the phone mostly because you don't have a lot of contact now except with family. And, you think about, people saying, "Hey, to get our mind off this and just have something to focus on other than what's going on in the world and in this country." It's just horrible. And to think this is the first, we never thought we'd see it, but we see it and we're living through it. But I think for people to just sit there and watch something that looks normal, looks like things there have continued. We had the combine and then this all happened in March. So at least they got the combine in. And here we are with the draft as scheduled on April April 23rd, and we're going to have players picked. And it was a TV event. It was never a fan event. It was always just a TV event, and that's what it'll be here. We'll all be on our in our homes doing it on whatever Glow Point, whatever we're doing it on, and it'll happen. And I think for fans, they want it. I've talked to so many people, even with free agency, Rich. They wanted free agency to continue. It gave them something to focus on there. So I think it does, contribute to I'd say the mental state of a lot of people who need this as a diversion to get away from what's going on.
And especially since I think the initial shock from the scouting community, there may be some as well in the talent evaluation community and the management in the at the team level about like not doing the draft in the manner in which they're accustomed to in a draft room with everything at their fingertips and a full medical that's in front of them. That I think that's wearing off, and I think teams are ready now. I'm wondering if you feel the same way on that front.
I do. And I did from the beginning, Rich. I do talking to them. They're ready to go. There's some concern about technology and how it'll work. There's some concern about if you want to make a trade and you don't have your guys in your room to get the eye contact with and the hand gestures to say, hey, up or down, thumbs up, thumbs down. You can figure it out by that. You can't now, but they're ready to go. Most teams are ready to go early. And I think they also, and I said this back then, there's what's going on now to just have a draft, get it done. I mean, our first responders, think about the doctors, the nurses. I have a lot in my own family, nurses and doctors out there putting their lives at risk to help everybody and deal with everybody that's sick and or thinks they are. So there's a lot more important things to deal with than worrying about how you're going to pick a player. And ironically, the best drafts in the history of the NFL were in 1971 and 1974 by the Pittsburgh Steelers when they drafted Hall of Famers, some of which came from small schools. And then you didn't have all this information. You didn't have rechecks and this and that and everything you have now and the over-analysis that you have, Rich. So I think they get back now to maybe drafting a little bit better because they're looking at players as opposed to looking at workouts.
Mel Kiper Jr. getting ready for his 37th NFL draft with ESPN, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get into the Tua evaluation. We're 1 week from the actual result. What is his evaluation right now that you're hearing and think might actually play out 1 week from tonight, Mel?
Well, I did the mock the other day, and I had him going 6 to the L.A. Chargers with Justin Herbert, Oregon quarterback, going 5 to Miami. It's just based, Rich, on, as you know, what you hear from the people you talk to. We don't talk to 32 teams. We have a handful of teams to talk to, and everybody's going to have different opinions based on who they talk to and how those teams feel about what they're hearing. And no team is ever going to tell you who they're picking or who they like and who they don't like. That's just not going to happen for the most part. So I think you look at Miami and the Chargers. If he goes to the Chargers at 6, it's no big deal. Now, the big deal would be if he slips a little further than that. Now, some think he could. And I think teams are preparing for the possibility that could happen. We've had it happen before for no really explainable reason. Go back to Aaron Rodgers when he was thinking about 2 weeks before that draft. We thought he'd go number 1. Alex Smith goes number 1 instead of Aaron, and here's Aaron sliding down into the 20s. That has happened before. So, and they think it could maybe happen here. So what you're hearing more so than the injury is how he'll be once he's in the league. Will he be able to hold up, protect his body, take hits, and be an Iron Man at quarterback? People say, well, there's injuries to everybody. Well, not a quarterback, Rich. Quarterback's a position where you can have guys, look at Eli, look at Rivers, look at Ray Brady, go back to Elway, Marino, Kelly. I mean, they played forever. Now, they had an injury here and there, but it wasn't something that you were worried about, durability in terms of playing year to year. You might have an injury once every 10 years, but not like Tua's had at Alabama. So that's the concern. Hopefully, we'll be able to stay healthy. If he does, he'll have a great career, you would think, based on what we saw at Alabama.
Well, if this is your way of getting your reporting in and also your evaluation and marrying it together to be as accurate as you think it might be from mock to reality, let's just remove the reporting from it. I mean, your straight-up evaluation of Tua versus Herbert would be what, Mel?
I'll have Tua ahead of Herbert, but it's easy for me to do that because I don't have to make that pick because of the medical. Now,
right.
I think what I said today on ESPN was this, Rich. If you're picking 5 or 6, how do you reconcile that? How do you say, okay, I'm okay with risk-reward, knowing the injury question is real, knowing the hip, knowing the other injuries that he's had is real. You say that with this in mind, that at 5 and 6, if he's healthy, you don't get him. You have to trade up, give up draft capital, which in their case of Miami and the Chargers would probably be 2 or 3 starters to maybe move up and get him if everything would have been perfect with Tua. Now it's not perfect, so you get him at 5 or 6 by not even having to move, and then you don't have the risk. Say, hey, what's the we would have never seen him here had it not been for that. So I think that's the way to talk to your owner about why it's worth the risk at 5 or 6. Now, if he gets into if he doesn't go 5 or 6, then you get into the 4th quarterback. In that that case, will be the third quarterback, which makes it a tough situation because if Burrow goes 1, which we expect that to be a lock to be number 1,
right.
Herbert goes 5, and Tua's sitting there, where's he dropping to? Teams don't really need quarterbacks in that area. Now, to go to your question about Tua, as a quarterback, the only concern would be he had 4 first-round receivers around him, a first-round right tackle. He had Damian Harris, he had Josh Jacobs, and he had Najee Harris, and he had all these great Irv Smith last year. 2 years ago, it was a first-round pick. So he had a ton of talent around him during his career, but his precise, accurate passing, being a left-handed Drew Brees, which is the way I've always referred to him, is there, and that's why he's got a high grade. But I think it'll be interesting to see 5 or 6, or does he slip a little further, and then what team makes the move to get him?
Mel Kiper Jr. here on the Rich Eisen Show. Your evaluation of Love is what? What's your evaluation of this kid?
He can spin it as well as any quarterback, and he had a great year 2 seasons ago with the 32 touchdown passes, 6 picks. When he had talent around him, this year they took the talent left. You can't take 5 receivers, top running back, 4 starters on the line away from a kid at Utah State. We said that about Josh Allen at Wyoming his final year. He took his top guys away from him. Darnold had a lot of his top guys taken away from him his final year. So that's why it was tough for him to even come close to duplicating 2018, and he didn't. He had 17 interceptions. He made some terrible throws. He made some awful decisions. Was that him trying to do too much? Maybe, but he can throw the football. I think when you look at where he'll go, some think Todd McShay thinks so. He's going to go very high. I have him at 12 or 19 to the Raiders. They have 2 picks in the first round on a hunch that maybe John will handpick the first-round quarterback for the Raiders, the first time he's ever had that opportunity. And like I said, Rich, if he gets into that area where Tua we said would be, it's kind of never land. And I say that because there's no team that really desperately needs a quarterback. If you just say New England could, well, that's a 23.
And then there's Hurts. I like it. We're going from Love to Hurts. So Love does hurt sometimes. The Pittsburgh Steelers, you have him at 49. Why do you like that landing spot for Hurts? And do you think he would maybe last shorter than just 49, Mel Kiper?
He could, Rich. He could. There's talk of New England. I can't believe it's 23, but there's talk of that. Maybe if they trade out of the first round, they would look at Jalen Hurts. 43 career rushing touchdowns, 5.3 a carry. He gives you that ability to have packages specifically for him. People forget Lamar Jackson was a package quarterback early on. They had packages for him with Joe Flacco starting. So again, we didn't know what Lamar would develop into as a passer. There's concerns about the ability to see the field for Jalen Hurts as a passer in the NFL as a starting quarterback. But he improved dramatically in terms of his throwing motion, his accuracy overall. His passing skills look better. His whole mechanics look better at Alabama, and they even look better at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley. He never has thrown interceptions. He's been good with ball security there and taking care of the football. So I would say Pittsburgh looking for the heir apparent to Big Ben in a division where Mike Tomlin has seen Lamar Jackson. He knows he's going to now have to deal with Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield. I think if he's there for the Steelers, I keep hearing that that's a possibility.
Mel Kiper Jr. here, a few minutes left with the ESPN NFL Draft Analyst Deluxe joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's go back to the top. The Giants have a fascinating decision. Gettleman with his prize quarterback right there. You'd think he might want to protect him, and at 4 he's going to have every name on the board he wants. But you think he goes Isaiah Simmons. Why do you like that pick for the Giants, Mel?
Well, I think it's a great defensive player. It's a position where they added Blake Martinez, who's a tackling machine coming over from Green Bay. They need a linebacker, and it's not just a linebacker, Rich. He's everything. He can cover tight ends. He can cover receivers. He can get after the quarterback. He's got sideline-to-sideline range. He's got length. When you talk about 6'3.5" with incredibly long arms, which is important. John Gruden always wanted linebackers who have that kind of length and that kind of wingspan, and he has that to break up passes. You think he's not there, he is, and then all of a sudden the pass is broken up, and it's not a touchdown or a long gain. So Simmons has a lot of value for today's NFL, Rich. I think the offensive tackle is tempting. I know Daniel Jeremiah thinks maybe offensive tackle, with Tristan Wirfs, and they could. They got to protect us. Daniel Jones has shown he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's shown that as a rookie. The fumbles, I don't think any quarterback in the history of the game has ever been knocked at the end of his career because what prevented him from being great? Well, he fumbled too much. When did you ever hear that, Rich? Never. So, and some of the great quarterbacks did have fumbling issues during their career, but Daniel Jones will clean that that up. The offensive line's got to protect him better. So for Dave Gettleman, knowing he has a franchise quarterback that he drafted in Daniel Jones, maybe he would reach a little bit for the tackle. But if he doesn't, then I think then he would take the best defensive player, which would be Isaiah Simmons.
And then you got the Jaguars going Jerry Jeudy at 9, Mel. Do you have Jeudy at the top of your wide receiver draft board too?
I do. Some think it's Henry. I know Jim Nagy thinks it's Henry Ruggs III. You hear some think CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma. Justin Jefferson, LSU, was fast rising up boards after running that 4.43 and having a phenomenal year with Joe Burrow at LSU. So I would say Jeudy, just smooth, consistent, reliable 90% of the time. He's had a couple drops that were uncharacteristic, more just concentration drops. But I compared him to Marvin Harrison. He's a great route runner. I was with Marvin when I picked Marvin to go to the Hula Bowl the year he was coming out of Syracuse. He was over there in Hawaii with me, and I remember the business-like approach when he got in that locker room. He got on that. And we were in Hawaii, Rich, and it's time to have. He didn't want any part of having fun. He wanted to play football. And that Hula Bowl was a little more relaxed than some of the like the Senior Bowl, but he wanted to just go out and play football and take it seriously. And that's the way he had the look. You could look at his face and say, boy, he's ready to play football. And that's the way I think Jerry Jeudy is. He's not flashy. He just goes out and does his job.
So when it all comes down to it, Mel, and this may have something to do with whether the Dolphins do make a move at the top of the draft, or the Chargers make a move, or somebody might make a move at the top of the draft for the quarterback that they covet. The ultimate question is, there's somebody pretty damn talented scheduled to come out next year. Where would you rank Trevor Lawrence in this year's quarterback draft, Mel Kiper Jr.?
Well, Burrow would be ahead of him because Burrow, obviously, you saw him on the same field, and you saw what happened there. I mean, the thing about Burrow is, Rich, people say, well, 2 years ago he was rated as a late-round pick. Well, 2 years ago the offense has changed dramatically from 2 years ago, and Joe Brady came in. The receivers also improved dramatically. Justin Jefferson, increased phenomenal. I mean, it was staggering, the improvement of him in terms of his production and his consistency. Clyde Edwards-Helaire became a major factor at running back. Remember, it was Brissett was the running back 2 years ago. So it was a different situation entirely, and to go and play the way he did without one game where he left that game thinking, boy, is he really that good? There was never a game like that. He was over 71% in every game but the championship game. He was at 63-3 there. After that struggling start, he got it together, and you saw what happened. 5 touchdowns, no picks. He slips, he dips, he does everything in the pocket. He's got great awareness. He plays with a chip. You got to put Burrow 1. I think with Tua's injury, you might look at that and say Lawrence at 2, and then Tua at 3, and Herbert at 4. So I think Lawrence would be just, and if he were in this draft, I think he'd be slightly behind Burrow and certainly ahead of Tua because of the injury.
Yeah, I thought you'd say Trevor Lawrence, no question about it, no stuttering. But Burrow's that special, huh? When it comes down to it?
It is. It's tough. It's impossible, Rich, to overlook his greatness this year. And when you go and look at the competition he faced, and think about this, the pressure he was under to get the Heisman Trophy and then have to go out and all eyes on you, expectations through the roof. This was championship or bust for LSU. Okay? Anything other than a national championship winning that title, winning that final game was a bust. It was all for naught. And to go out and struggle early, and remember Clemson looked like they had all the answers and everything they were doing. They looked like, boy, LSU could be up against it here. Well, you get into the second quarter, and from that point on, it was lights out. He adjusts, he adapts, he changes. And Brady, it was great to have there as well with him, and they had a lot of talent. But to have no games, 0 games, where he had anything that would make you think that there's a chance he may not be as good as we think he is why Joe Burrow would be number 1, I think, in any draft. And if we look, if he's not as good as he should be, I haven't heard anybody that I respect say, have Burrow pump the brakes. He's not that good. I haven't heard anybody say that. I think the concern was early on, well, it's 1 year. He didn't play that great 2 years ago. But after the way he played this season and played in those pressure-packed games, I think everybody's on board. And I said this, if Joe Burrow is a bust, I think everybody's wrong.
Mm-hmm. And who's your last one for you, Mel Kiper Jr.? Who's your favorite player in this draft? Who's the guy that you covet? Like you absolutely, it could be Burrow, but it could also be somebody that we haven't even mentioned. It's off the radar screen. It's somebody who's lower first round, high second, maybe even a third rounder with a huge ceiling. Who's that guy that you say, oh, man, I just dig this kid. I'd have to have him on my team?
Great question, Rich, because we answer that by, we do the who are your favorite players. I do that up on ESPN.com, and Todd and I do that as well, and Daniel does it. We always hear who's the most fun player, most entertaining player. Yes. It's more than who your rated players. Forget rated. Mekhi Becton was fun to watch play left tackle at Louisville. He just wanted to just get after people and dominate people. Jeff Okudah was fun to watch, how he just wanted to lock down, and he tackled, and he did everything you want a complete corner to do. I think those were 2 guys that jump out at me. Obviously, Isaiah Simmons flying all over over the field making plays. CeeDee Lamb with the stiff arm after the catch. I mean, I call him CDYAC because these yards after catch are phenomenal. So those are just some of the guys. That Jeremy Chin, a safety at Southern Illinois. I watched him against Western Illinois with 15 tackles. He had 13 career interceptions at Southern Illinois. He's going in the second round. He was an interesting non-1A player to watch. He will be one of the first the old days, I call him 1AA, Rich. The old 1AA days. He's one of those guys that's going to go pretty high. Jeremy Chin out of Southern Illinois.
Okay. Sounds like you're ready for the draft, Mel. I'm not going to lie.
And so are you ready? And we're all ready. And that's a week from tonight. A week from today. Can you believe it?
Tonight. What do you think of Caliendo's impersonation of you, Mel? You like it? Yes or no?
Caliendo's a good friend. Tim and I and Lauren went to a show, and we watched both shows. We even stayed for the second show. And if you ever have a chance to do that, Rich, he's incredibly entertaining. And he's got it down. I just want him to get a Todd. I'd like to see him get a Daniel Jeremiah. And get. Does he do you yet, Rich?
No, he does not. He has yet to attempt. I think he's still stuck on Stephen A. Smurf, as he calls his stuffed animal he has in the office. I think he's stuck on that. Thanks for the call, Mel. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, Rich. I'll see you on Thursday.
Yep. I'll miss seeing you in person. That's Mel Kiper Jr., ESPN NFL draft analyst. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.